Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. You may have seen from the title that we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'm starting a new series where in each episode I will be building, painting, and weathering different N-scale buildings and then eventually putting them onto my N-scale layout. If you haven't seen the first video where I actually build my N-scale layout, make sure to go check that out before watching this one. To start off this building series, I decided to get one of Walthers' more popular buildings, which is the hole-in-one donut shop. Opening up the box, it would come with everything you'd expect out of a model. The parts, the instructions, and some decals, which were very small. Here are all the parts it came with: the roof, the base, the walls, the window, and finally the actual donut itself. It also came with some pretty cool decals, which as you can tell are printed very nicely, as you're able to clearly read the little tiny text in person. After getting all my parts situated, I got out my pliers and I started clipping the parts out. I first assembled the donut, and then after assembling all the rest of the parts, I got out my primer and I primed it outside. After all the parts were primed and finished drying, it was now time to start assembling it. The first two parts I assembled was the left wall and the back wall. The back wall had a small little side door for the employees, which was a nice touch. I then added it to the base to keep it stable for when it was drying. I then added the right wall and was actually starting to assemble somewhat of a shop. I then added the front wall, which had some counters for the employees to make donuts and coffee. I then wanted to start messing with the decals, so I pulled out a small little piece that I didn't plan on using and I started placing some decals on it. This was my first attempt, and after learning that the decals were incredibly fragile after getting soaked, I now learned my lesson and decided to be a little bit more careful and not use my fingers and instead use pliers for putting on decals. I then proceeded to practice 2 more times applying decals, and I think I got it down. And then, out of my impatience, I decided to put all the parts together to see how it looked. I didn't glue them together, but I did place them on top of each other just to see how it looked. After that, I put on a base coat of just a light gray to get everything looking nice. I then also did a few dry brushes to make it look pretty weathered, as the whole building was made out of concrete, and I would think after some time it would get pretty dirty. I then proceeded to paint the roof a dark gray to contrast it from the concrete walls of the actual building. I then decided to risk it and place the biggest decals on the side of the walls, and luckily they did not break apart like the little signs up front, and I'm pretty proud of how it looks. I then wanted to start painting the donut. I first started off with the legs, and then I proceeded to do a base coat on the actual donut. I then got 3 different types of browns to paint the donut just how I wanted it. I want to have a few golden places and some burnt places as if it was actually baked like a real donut. I then proceeded to paint the donut the medium shade of brown, and the other shades of brown will definitely add a lot of depth to this. I also tried experimenting with what I wanted to put on the donut. I tried putting some seeds on it, but I decided that would be a whole lot of work for not a lot of detail. So I just decided to keep going with the goldening from the baking, and if it's hard to see, here's a before and after picture to help you see the goldening that I put onto the donuts. I then proceeded to put some darker shades of brown onto it to simulate some burnt spots as if it was really baked. After painting it all up, this is what it looks like, and I think it looks really nice. Again, if it's hard to see, here's a before and after picture. After everything was painted, I decided to do some small little details before fully assembling it, like brightening up the counters with a lighter gray and adding a second coat of paint onto the donut legs. After that, I started to assemble the building. The first thing I did was add the glass onto the roof of the building. After the glue dried, this is what the glass looked like on the top of the roof. What I would need to do now is glue the roof onto the actual building to finish up the actual building parts. I proceeded to do that, and the glue actually removed some of the paint, so I would have to touch it up later. Which I did, and I would have to weather it all again too. After doing all of that, I now decided to assemble the donut on the top of the roof. After putting it on, I glued it in and waited for it to dry. The final thing to do was to put some matte varnish onto the decals to keep them from shining too much. I went to the store and I got a spray-on matte varnish. After applying it to the model, the decals had absolutely zero shine and blended in with the walls very nicely. I then also put some fog onto the windows in case I put any lights in it in the future. And now with everything done, it was now time to present the final product. I had a lot of fun making this video, so comment down below if you liked it too and if I should continue with this building series. Again, I'm sorry for the delayed release, but it's very hard to fit this kind of time in, especially when I'm moving to a different stage. I am planning on expanding my content range and posting a whole lot more videos in the future, so make sure to stick around and watch when I post a new video. And see you in the next one.